Good morning, everyone. I would like to invite you all to find your seats. We are going to begin shortly. Thank you. מזמור לדוד. אדוני רואי לא אכסר, בנודש ירביצני על מי מנוחות ינעלני. נפשי ישובב, יענקני במגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי ילך וכצל מוות, לא ידע רע כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד שוררי, דשענת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The words of the 23rd Psalm, Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit. Guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rabah. I'm the spiritual leader here at Congregation Shaarey Zedek, and it's my great honor to officiate the funeral services for Isaac Gotfried of blessed memory. Isaac was also known to the Jewish people by his Hebrew name, Israel Yitzchak ben Shmuel Yehuda Halevi v'Chana, Zichrono Livracha. He was the son of Shmuel and Hannah Gotfried of blessed memory, the husband of the late Hilda Gotfried of blessed memory, the brother of the late Bernard Gotfried of blessed memory, the father of Irene Shapira, father-in-law of the late Gary Shapira, blessed memory, also the father of Susan Libby Hutton and Christopher Hutton, Marla and Alan Gadet, and Paula and David Kerr. Grandfather of Jared, Laura, Casey, and Stephen, Morgan and Marie Michelle, Evan, Callum and Sophie, and Rowan. Great-grandfather of McKenna and Jake and Bodie. Isaac was also predeceased by his entire birth family, who perished in the Holocaust. Isaac passed away peacefully on Monday, February 3rd, at the age of 99 and a half. So I guess this is also a good opportunity to welcome everyone at home. Thank you so much for tuning in to our service this morning. And we gather here today to honor and remember a man who was more than just a survivor, as he will define himself. He was an educator, a storyteller, a beacon of resilience, and a beloved and honored member of our community. Isaac Gotfried, of blessed memory, was short in stature, but his presence was immense. He carried the weight of history on his shoulders, not as a burden, but as a mission to educate, to enlighten, and to ensure that the horrors he endured will never happen again. Isaac's story was one of unimaginable loss. Having survived when so many, including his parents and sisters, did not, he emerged from darkness with a determination not only to live, but to teach others about the past. His active life did not end with retirement. Instead, it took on an even greater purpose: to speak to anyone who will dare to listen. Students in hundreds of high schools, students at universities, conferences, and conventions, sharing his personal experience with raw honesty and unwavering conviction. He never shied away from the difficult questions, and his passion was clear: the world must never forget. Later in life, he poured his heart into his book, Lucky to Survive. Initially meant for a close circle of family and friends, only to find that its impact was far greater than he could have imagined. The demand for his story led to its wider publication, and hundreds of copies found their way into the hands of readers who needed to hear his truth. Isaac never sought honor or recognition, yet he became a highly respected and well-known figure in our community. Proof that true greatness lies in purpose, not in prestige. Through everything, Isaac never lost his sense of humor. One may ask, how? After all the suffering he endured, he could still find laughter. But that was Isaac, strong, resilient, and unwilling to let the past steal his joy. He loved his family deeply, and though he has lost so much, he built a life filled with love, warmth, and meaning. Isaac Gotfried, of blessed memory, was a survivor in every sense of the word. Not only did he endure, he lived, he taught, he inspired. Today, as we say goodbye, we do so with gratitude for the lessons he shared and the legacy he leaves behind. May his memory be a blessing, and may we honor him by continuing his work, by listening, by remembering, and by ensuring that the world never forgets. Now, to eulogize Isaac, I would like to invite first his daughters, Irene, Susan, Marla, and Paula, to come to the microphone to share their words of eulogy.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to celebrate the long life of our father, Isaac Gotfried. Our dad was born in Poland on July 13, 1925, raised in poverty along with his brothers and sisters. His family life and childhood ended at the age of 15 when the Nazis shipped him off to a slave labor camp and then concentration camps. He escaped by hiding in the woods just prior to liberation. He was wily, he was smart, and he recognized an opportunity and he took it. He would say he was lucky to survive. After the war, he was again lucky to be reunited with his only surviving family member, his brother Bernard. They were sponsored together to come to Canada by his auntie Zlata in 1947. In February 1950, he met our mom Hilda, and they got married 1 year later. He was proud to say he was married to the same chick for 68 years. He claimed when they met he was 6'2", but she pegged him down a foot over the years. Over the next 8 years, their 4 girls were born. Dad was a loving husband, father, and Zedek. He was a real girl dad. He always said he was afraid he might hang himself on the pantyhose hanging to dry in our bathroom. He insisted on his own bathroom when we moved to a bigger house. He played with us often. His favorite was to play hospital so he could be the patient and fall asleep on the floor. In fact, he could fall asleep anywhere, even the bowling alley. Dad always said his children were his investment and his grandchildren were his dividends. He and Mom were wonderful grandparents and had a special relationship with each of their grandchildren. They traveled regularly to see the family out of town and never hesitated to make an extra trip anytime we needed them. His grandchildren and great-grandchildren always called him when they passed a grade at school because he rewarded them with an ice cream. Actually, they called him when they passed anything at all to tell him that he owed them an ice cream. Family was always very important to Dad. He was proud of his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and even his sons-in-law. He worked hard to provide for his family and was successful in his career. He was one of the top salesmen, or as he said, salesmen, at London Life and received many awards. Mom and Dad had a very active social life. They loved to dance, bowl, play bridge, party with their friends, and spend their summers in the trailer at Gimli. After Dad's retirement, they traveled the world, spending most winters in Florida or Palm Springs. Dad only finished grade 6 because of the war, but he was highly intelligent and self-educated. He knew a lot about history, geography, and politics, and he loved to challenge us on those subjects. His childhood dream was to become a teacher, and he achieved that dream after retiring by becoming a Holocaust educator. Dad spoke about his Holocaust experiences to over 25,000 people of all ages at schools, universities, museums, and conferences, both locally and internationally. In addition, he was interviewed by newspapers, television, documentarians, and PhD candidates. His legacy has been captured on film, in print, and by the Shoah Foundation. You can Google his name, he's everywhere. While some survivors never are able to speak about the atrocities of the Holocaust, Dad would never stop speaking about it. He wanted to ensure that the Holocaust was never forgotten. He ended every lecture and interview with the words, "Never again." At the age of 92, Dad wrote his life story. His intention was to make 10 copies for his children and grandchildren. In the end, his book, Lucky to Survive, was published and sold over 1,000 copies. His book, we just learned yesterday, is also in every middle school and high school in Manitoba. He encouraged everybody to share his book broadly, so we truly don't know how many people have read it. We do know that it's gone worldwide, though. He was so proud of his book, selling it to everybody he met, even ambulance attendants. In keeping with his generous spirit, all the proceeds from the book were donated to the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. He received many awards for his work and his philanthropy. Dad was known as Big Ike. He loved to tell a good joke, and often even a bad one. He had a funny lisp and an accent nobody could imitate. He once bought an answering machine but returned it because he didn't like the way he sounded on the outgoing message. Dad had a devilish smile and a twinkle in his eyes. He had many friends. He was well liked and respected in the community and will be missed by many. Our dad lived to be 99 and a half. We were all looking forward to his 100th birthday party. He loved to be the birthday boy. He never expected to live such a long life. In recent years, he would joke, "Even the devil doesn't want me." He always said not to grieve his death, but to celebrate how long he lived. He was not afraid of death. He always lived life fully. He was very social. He played bridge. He loved to go out for Chinese food or apple pancakes right up until the end of his life. Our dad was optimistic and he had a great attitude. When faced with a challenge, he always said, "This too shall pass." He was grateful for the life he had and for his long life. He truly felt grateful that he was lucky to survive. We are grateful to our dad for being such a wonderful father to us and a Zedek to our children and grandchildren for such a long time. We'll miss you, Dad. And to quote our dad, "We love you, yeah, yeah, yeah."
Thank you.
Thank you so much. To continue the process of eulogizing Isaac, I would like to invite next two of his grandchildren, Jared and Casey, to come to the microphone to eulogize him.
Thank you. My Zedek was widely counted among the last of the Holocaust survivors, who was known for his transcendent speeches at schools, museums, and of course in his autobiography. He was also known as a trusted source on a sweeping breadth of topics. But for us, his closest family members and friends, it was our delirious adulation that defined our most treasured memories, by a man who has now become our fondest memory himself. My Zedek was an enduring and vibrant patriarch with his warm smile, his sense of humor, and a level of intellect that taught his children and grandchildren to prize honor and virtue above the external advantages of rank and fortune. He was one of the sublime representatives of a gentleman most often associated with a bygone era, smolderingly regal, seemingly inscrutable, and a larger-than-life presence that, despite his diminutive stature, left no doubt as to how he earned the nickname Big Ike by his reverential group of friends. His exalted status in the Winnipeg Jewish community was won by virtue of the vast number of keynote speeches at his command and the lather of virtue in which attendees routinely whipped themselves. But above all, and this is what moved his family and friends to ardor in the first place, there's the loving husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, uncle, and those who were lucky enough to earn a place within his sphere of influence. He possessed an unassuming and graceful elegance that, though thin and light, was not without heft. A trusted consigliere, he was renowned for his riverine advice with an ethereal translucence that few other men could equal. For most of us, it's an easy task to invoke adjectives to describe my Zedek, adjectives that would read as staggering hyperbole for almost anyone else. But we are discussing a man who lived long enough to see 3 generations, who will no doubt strive to continue to ensure that the wick of his legacy never burns out. I don't believe you can ever be ready to lose someone like my Zedek. Just the other day, I prayed for his health, for a miracle, for more time. His 99 years on this planet wasn't nearly enough. But standing here today, I know he's watching over us. To him, we are his stars, and tonight, he is our sky. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Casey, and I had the great privilege of being Isaac's granddaughter. I always said that a eulogy for my Zedek should start with a joke and end with a book sale, because he always had a joke, and he sold his book to everyone, everywhere he went. But instead of giving a eulogy, I'd like to read an excerpt from his memoir. And I don't have a joke for you because all of his jokes were a little inappropriate for a funeral. I'll get to the book sale in a minute. When he was 92, Zedek made a new friend at the Shaftesbury named Ron Blick, and Ron encouraged Zedek to self-publish his memoir at McNally Robinson. Ron was also 92. I had previously typed up the first draft from his scratchy handwriting, but with Ron's encouragement, Zedek took the book from paper to paperback. He spent hours in the Shaftesbury Library with Ron and me, double-checking references, facts, and dates, rearranging paragraphs and photographs, editing, proofreading, working with McNally to publish it, and planning the book launch. Lucky to Survive was on the McNally Robinson bestsellers list the week that it was published. He sold out every copy at the book launch and ordered hundreds more. As you heard, he sold over 1,000 copies of the book, and all of the proceeds went to the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. At the end of his memoir, he wrote about his hopes and his wishes for the future generations and why he continued to tell the story. I hope this story will leave a legacy for my family, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and that maybe people will learn from it to be tolerant of each other and avoid wars and dictators at any cost. I hope people will never again allow their religious differences to start wars or kill each other. I continue to tell my story so people will learn to tolerate each other, whether they come from Europe, Asia, or any other part of the world. People are still dying from wars in Africa and the Middle East, and religious beliefs are mostly the cause. The Hebrew saying tikkun olam means repair the world, and is apt. People of my generation have spread too much hate. Enough is enough. It's up to you, my young readers, to realize that we should live in harmony with people of all cultures, skin colors, and religious beliefs. After McNally Robinson stopped publishing books a few years ago, Zedek decided not to publish elsewhere. It's still available at the Winnipeg Public Library, and many people in this room have a copy that they may let you borrow. This is my grandfather's copy. It is worn out, and it is well read, but Zedek might joke that it recently came back into the market. Come find me after the funeral if you'd like to purchase this copy of the book. The cost is a generous donation to the CMHR and your promise to lend it out to family and friends if they promise to give it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Isaac's great-granddaughter, McKenna, to come to the microphone.
My name is McKenna, and Isaac was my great-grandfather. He was a great great-grandfather, and I loved him so much. I have some great memories with my Zeta, and I would love if I could share them with you. I kept coming up with more things I wanted to share, but my phone would explode if I added all I wanted to. So here's contributions and stories my Zeta added into my chapters. When I was little, he was super hands-on, playing tag with me. Well, more like waddling around with me. When he passed, my mom shared a video with me. We were playing tag. Even though I don't remember this exact moment, I remember how hands-on he was with me and how much he loved me. He kept his traditions with me the older I grew. He would bring chocolate to me and my brother when we visited. He always asked me how was school, even if I was on summer break. I wish I could have just answered one more time, how was school? I wish I could have told him I loved him one more time. I wish I could have forgotten where he lived in the Shaftesbury and gotten lost on every floor one more time. I wish I told him goodbye properly, but I didn't know what to say. I wish I could have asked him one more question. When I started to get older, I started learning about our history. I always knew he survived the Holocaust, but I didn't fully understand it until last year. We were learning about migration and immigration, and we were assigned homework to interview our family on how we came to Canada. I went to him. He told me about the concentration camps, how he got liberated. He told me about his last conversation with his dad. Afterward, I learned about my history by doing research at home. He was always open to answering my questions. I made a commitment to myself that after he left, I would keep on sharing his story, teaching others what he once taught me. I loved Zeta's flaws, I loved his laughter, but I loved his inner self the most. Zeta didn't have the best memory. When I was 8, I was diagnosed with celiac. Being Zeta, he forgot. He would always ask me if I wanted something with gluten. I wouldn't say, Zeta, I'm allergic. I would say, I'm saving food for later. I love it, Zeta. Can I take it home to eat? I'm a bit full now. Why couldn't Zeta have been here another day, part of me says. The other part of me says, he was ready. He wasn't in pain. I loved my Zeta. He always asked me how my boyfriend was, even though I've never had one. At first, I was confused, but my Aunt Paula taught me to go along with it. And I've got to tell you, I was ready. He asked me next I saw him, and my response was pretty good. He's a great kisser. He gave me a part of me that I can't be who I am without. He gave me his laughter, his stubbornness, his courage, his love, his selflessness, his jokes. He loved telling me about his day. His most precious thing to tell me was about his lady friends. He kept pictures in his walker and would show them off to me. I always loved them. He taught me things that you can't learn in school. How to be a good salesman, how I should stay in school. He taught me love. He taught me to give back to others. My Zeta loved me so much. I am his favorite great-granddaughter, of course. I mean, I'm the only one that him and Baba mentioned in their story. I've got proof in my house. I will finish the life he started for our family, and I will make him proud. My Zeta loved to show me off. He started every introduction by saying, "This is my great-granddaughter, and she's pretty great." So I wanted to end my last part by this. Zeta is my great-grandfather, the best storyteller, the cinnamon roll on the outside, the one you say bruh to on the inside, the funniest man that's existed, the non-perfect man, the bravest person, the best husband, the best father, the best grandfather, the best great-grandfather, the man everyone loves, the man everyone wants to know, the kind soul, the best person. This is my great-grandfather, and he's pretty great. I love you, Zeta.
Thank you so much. And now I would like to invite Bill Janiewski, Executive Director, Jewish Heritage Center for Western Canada.
Thank you so much for honoring me this morning and asking me to speak. I usually prepare very careful notes, and speaking off the cuff is very unusual. But I have so many wonderful memories of Isaac. As the daughter of Holocaust survivors who sadly I lost when I was very, very young, in my 20s, I have a special connection to the survivors that I've come to know and to work with. And my connection to Isaac was very, very special. I feel like I've lost a member of my own family. So about almost 20 years ago, actually, I met Isaac when I became involved with the Jewish Heritage Center. And I was asked to write a book about the stories of the survivors. At that time, we had the recordings that our survivors did in the 1980s for the Shoah Foundation. And at that time, those recordings were on VHS tapes. And so the only way that you could listen to it and watch it was if you bought the VHS tapes, which were actually quite expensive. So the idea was, there was concern from some of the survivors that no one would hear their story. Today, fortunately, all of those stories are online, and it's now called the Visual History Archive. But I was so fortunate then to get these stories directly from the survivors who were still alive, like Isaac, and then edit them for the book. And as I was writing, I would imagine this, I have 4 children of my own who are now all grown, but I would imagine this 15-year-old boy at the beginning of the war and remembering what my kids were like at that age. And so many parts of his story that were inspiring, his courage, and also so tremendously sad. The last conversation, he always, when he gave these presentations to students, he would talk about the last conversation that he had with his dad. And like many teenagers, he had gotten into an argument with his father. And then, of course, he never saw his father again. His courage to act at certain points, to run away when that would have been the end of his life. But I think that one particular point that he always talked about when he spoke to his audiences was when he was doing slave labor, as so many Jews were forced to do for the Nazis. And there was a Nazi who was talking to a group of probably Hitler youth, young boys, and he was showing them different groups, and he said, well, you see, of the slave laborers, you see those people over there, they're French, and those people over there, they're Dutch, and you see that group over there, they're Jews. And these boys were stunned because they had completely accepted the horrific dehumanization of Jews and responded by saying, but I don't understand, they look like people. And that sentence had such an impact on the students, and Isaac spoke to students from grade 6 all the way through adults, of course, and I was so fortunate to be with him when he did those presentations. That really hit home, and they understood how easily people can be convinced to hate. Isaac had, as I said, such an impact on so many people, and I run into people today who are in, their 30s and older, who remember hearing Isaac speak, and they tell me that it changed their life. Isaac also inspired me, as you've heard, with his incredible sense of joy. He enjoyed life. He loved to laugh. He loved to make jokes. And every year, since COVID, there were fewer opportunities to meet in person, but every year on his birthday, I would talk to him, and I would always give him the traditional wish, bis 120, may you live to be 120, and he always responded in the same way, schelt mir nicht. He saw that as almost a curse to wish him to be that age, but of course he was joking. And we talked about this 100th birthday party for the last, year for sure, and how much he was looking forward to it. And I'm so sad that we weren't able to celebrate that with him. But his legacy will live on. We had another set of interviews with him about a dozen years ago. We re-interviewed about a dozen survivors in partnership with the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. And by then, technology was, of course, much improved from the earlier interviews in the 1980s. And during COVID, when we were searching for ways to reach students, since we couldn't do these in-person presentations, we put together packages with the interview and also photos that he had given to us. And we've made these available to teachers all over the province, and we also get requests from even further afield. So we will remember him. I will always miss him, and we will ensure that his story is never forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I would like to invite everyone to rise now for the memorial prayer, El Malach Rachamim. El Malach Rachamim, Shochem Bameroimim, Hametzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei, Ashechina, Vema'alot Kedoshim, Kedoshim Uteorim, Kezoyer Araki Amazirim Eden Ishemat Eden Ishemat Israel Yitzchak Ben Shmuel Yehuda Levi Vechana שהלך לעולמו בעבור שאנו מתפללים ועד הצקעת נשמתו בגן עדן בגן עדן מנוחתו לכם ולרחמים אסתי ראיו וסדר כנעביו לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים החיים את נשמתו אדוני ונחלתו וינוח ושלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Isaac Gotfried, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. You may be seated. In a minute, we're going to proceed to the next stage, which is to go in caravan fashion to the Shaarey Zedek cemetery. If you're coming with us, please remember to turn on your four-way flashers to recognize your car as part of the procession. And also please remember that in these days, funeral processions have to stop at stop signs and red lights. So please remember, we have a few photo radar cameras along the way. So, yeah. Immediately after the burial, everybody's invited to the meal of consolation back here at the Shaarey Zedek. For the Shiva, it's going to be Friday and Saturday. From Friday at from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., Saturday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Shaarey Retirement Residence, 905 Shaarey Boulevard. And the Shiva is going to take part at the library, second floor of the Shaarey. Again, Friday 2 to 4, Saturday 7 to 9, everybody's invited. And in lieu of flowers, Isaac requested that donations be made to the Jewish Heritage Center's Holocaust Education Endowment Fund at the Jewish Foundation of Manitoba. Now, I would like to invite the pallbearers to exit the sanctuary, to assume their places alongside the coffin. And immediate family is invited to leave now to assume, and to go straight to your transportation. And for all of us, we have to be a little patient. Once everything is ready in the outside, somebody's going to let me know that it's time for us to leave the sanctuary. So please be patient, stay in your seats. So the tradition is, after you leave, to form two lines outside the building through which the coffin is going to go to the hearse. It may be too cold, so it is okay if you want to stay inside the building until we leave. But if you want to do it the traditional way, it is to leave the building and to form two lines outside, if you can do it. Thank you so much. We can exit now.